I'm Steve Wells. I'm going to give you as much information, techniques, strategies as I can to help you overcome fear of rejection and bring your gifts and your art and your your brilliance out to the world. So I say art because my darling wife Louise is on the line watching from home. So it's an interesting feeling actually having my wife watching. Hope I actually perform really well because her rejection is probably the thing I would like the least in the world. So hi Rachel, nice to see you. Sandra, Robert, can you just very quickly type who you are, where you're from? I've disabled the attendee list, so presumably you shouldn't all be able to see that. That gives you a little bit of anonymity. I'd like to come in with and just watch. I had some people write me and say they were just going to watch rather than participate. Of course, this is what fear of rejection does to us. So just let us know who you are, where you're from. Janet from Canada. It's Monday evening for you. Gary from Melbourne. Yes, Rachel's from Western Australia, my own state, and Ewa. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sandra from Oregon, USA. Very good. Megan, of course, Pingelly, Mel from the Hunter Valley. So people from all over Australia at the moment. Nell from the US, Jean, Ashland, Oregon, Leah from Melbourne. All right, so far this is Australia and US friendly. I know I did have a couple of people from Europe saying I was going to make it to this program, and man, if you are here, let us know because it's the middle of the night for you. All right, let's get moving really quickly through here. Just need to skip through the legal stuff, the disclaimer. The information that I'm offering is just information and education purposes. It's not advice. The techniques that I'm going to discuss and hopefully have a chance to demonstrate, set simple energy techniques and IEP, my new intention-based energy process. Whilst those techniques have caused impressive results for a lot of people, there's no guarantee they're going to work exactly that way for you and be as pain-free as they have been for people who have used them. So therefore, you have to agree to take full responsibility for your use of the techniques, mental and physical health, physician and or therapist regarding your use of them, particularly if you have mental health issues already that you're aware of. Just some quick housekeeping as the call is being recorded. At the moment, it's listen only, but I will put it on to question and answer mode so you can ask me questions, and also so that if we get a chance, we can coach a couple of people using the techniques and demonstrate the techniques. If you do talk with me and you want to use a headset or headphones, so that's why I'm wearing the Mickey Mouse ears, just to avoid an nasty echo on this system. Now, if you already know tapping, you should already be tapping. Tap along and gain the benefits. If you don't know tapping, I'll very quickly review those, some points about tapping in a moment. But start tapping now and you're going to gain the benefits of an hour of tapping or an hour and a quarter of tapping. And as you know, that kind of tunes and tones your energy system and brings down your negative stress chemistry and brings up the good positive endorphins and all the stuff that gives you life energy. All right, so this thing of fear of rejection, the webinar, man, it's taking a little while to load here, so I hope these slides are coming through a bit quicker for you. The aims for this webinar, Evelyn, they sound a bit jerky for anyone else. Let's just check here. Doreen is saying yes. Is there anyone else saying that it's a bit jerky? A problem. Oh dear. Yes, we have had a little bit of a problem with our internet connection recently. Can you just let me know if that actually improves, because I'm a little bit worried about it. So a few other people typing. Isn't this just the way of it, that we do a fear of rejection webinar and this to reject? Okay, so I think that this might be the problems that we've been having with our internet. Megan says not too bad. Okay. We are going to soldier on, and let's hope that the recording is good, and if that doesn't work out, you can grab the recording from this afternoon, but let's hope that we get enough quality to take us through. Okay. So the aim of the webinar is to show you how to free yourself from fear of rejection so you can share more of yourself and your unique gifts to the world. We're going to be using two unique techniques, simple energy technique, which is the version of tapping developed by myself and my good friend Dr. David Lake from Sydney, and this new intention-based energy process that I have discovered and been using for the last couple of years. It's an absolutely fantastic process. I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. So really what this is about is, are you singing the song you came here to sing, putting out your brilliance, your message, your gifts to the world, whether that be your writing, whether it be your art, whether it be your singing, whether it be your products, whether it be your services, whether it be your unique business, whatever it is, it's getting it out there in the world. And the challenge, of course, is that kind of like the more that you move towards success, potentially, the more you put yourself out there for rejection. And I love this quote by Tom Peters. He says, rejection is not a prerequisite for success, but I've never studied a great success who didn't have to overcome great amounts of opposition, criticism, and rejection. So we need to be able to deal with this, especially if we are going to bring our gifts to the world. And this is what we need from everybody now, is to be able to get over this stuff and contribute what they have to contribute. And you know, I don't want to be too melodramatic, but we may all need you to do that for our survival. Whether it is that you're going to help our mental and emotional health, you know, by giving us something which is just going to make us feel better, or whether you're going to come out with your invention or your creation or your particular style of coaching or your particular personal development message or whatever it is that's going to help the world. Now, I have to apologize. I've got to have a thing of doing this, of getting a little bit too heated up and too excited, and so my glasses keep fogging up. All right, so let's get through the content, because I want to get to the coaching. We have a need to belong, and hardwired into our nervous system. It's just a fundamental need that we have to get together in relationships. And the challenge is, while we have a positive drive to be part of a group and part of something and part of society, that also underlying that is a need or a concern about social acceptance. And it basically gets into everything. And of course, the social media is the biggest place that this tends to play out these days. And the challenge is that rejection is everywhere, and rejection really, really hurts. And one of the reasons why it hurts is because the areas of the brain that become activated when we experience physical pain are some of the same areas that are activated when we experience rejection. Is that in many, many ways, rejection and pain are the same thing. And so it's real pain. It's not just in your head, it's a real pain. And the strongest of all, very, very close relationships. And I know personally, you know, doing a lot of tapping on those kind of things, sometimes it's just really, really hard to get that to be enough. And so I want to talk a bit about that later on, about how we can apply tapping and energy techniques to deal with this really, really strong rejection. One of the things that I'll say right now is getting enough of it happening. It's not just going to be a few rounds, it's going to be enough to deal with that kind of hurt. So here's what I'm saying. Oh man, okay, internet problems. Hopefully you can still hear me, and it's still coming through to some extent. All right, so yeah, right. It seems like it's my connection which is the biggest part of the problem. We had a storm here recently, and sometimes in this area, when it gets into the system, it makes the internet muck up, and unfortunately no technicians were going to come out and fix it before I ran this webinar. So wouldn't you guess? We'll soldier on. So here's an interesting, just a few things about some of the research. When they've conducted brain scans on people who've broken up with their partners, the brain regions associated with physical pain lit up as they viewed photographs of their exes. So this is just another thing pointing to this shared pathway of rejection with the pain pathways in the brain. And this is believed to have come about because of evolution. And the social attachment system is believed to have piggybacked physical pain system because it was really important for our evolutionary survival to be in groups. When you're, of course, it's also important for a baby, and they're totally at the mercy of the environment. It's very, very important for them to have their caretakers. And so separation from others, therefore, this is the theory, became linked with, a really, really bad feeling, as in, so if social exclusion is a threat to your survival, then feeling hurt is a way to prevent that. So, the belief is that instead of having to create an entirely new system to represent socially painful events, basically evolved the system for physical pain, and now we got to suffer, now we have to deal with it. What's really interesting is that some of the things that you can use to treat physical pain can be used to treat rejection. Now, I'm not recommending this as a treatment, but in research, they've actually found that people who took Tylenol when they were rejected recounted fewer episodes of hurt feelings than a placebo group who took sugar pills. And fMRI studies have found that people taking painkillers for 3 weeks, there was less activity in the pain-related brain regions when they were rejected versus a placebo group, which is really, really interesting. So here's another thing too. Money won't fix it. So, in one of the studies, a number of studies actually, where they gave people money when they were rejected, but didn't give them money when they were accepted, as in, this is therefore linking it with a positive thing that supposedly is really good. In fact, they still hurt. And even when the hurt was a setup, and people were told later that was just a setup, they still hurt. I've done exercises in workshops, and even telling people up front, about matching and mismatching and mirroring and all those kind of things. So, training people, particularly, in communication, training people in corporate areas, or training counselors and therapists and coaches to be able to attend to other people and to be able to match and mirror and get into alignment with them bodily. And then when you say, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get them to actually mismatch you, but first they're going to match you for a while. Well, lo and behold, after a while, people get lulled into that kind of false sense of security when the person is matching them and showing all the rapport signals. And then when they mismatch, people actually feel hurt, even though it's been set up to be told ahead of time that people are going to do it. And that's why I would never do those exercises without telling people ahead of time, It just goes to show how important, this stuff is for our relationships, for developing trust and so on. Now, this slide, it's important to actually read the heading carefully. Rejection pain is easier to relive, not relieve. It's easier to relive rejection pain than physical pain for most people in most types of pain. So it's easier for us to relive and re-experience social pain than it is to relive and re-experience physical pain. And that's really interesting. It's like we hold on to that pain of rejection much, much more than we do pain from even physical injuries. So in a way, it's even worse than physical injury, social rejection. This is how important it is to us as a race, a being, an animal. Okay, so how do we treat it? And the researchers say, if you're rejected, you should seek out healthy, positive connections. Well, hey, if you have a problem with rejection, that's probably going to be a little bit hard. Okay, yeah, positive social interactions give you a mood boost. Yes, if you're upset, you've been rejected by someone else, phone a friend, contact anyone who you can help you. If you can't find a friend, of course, find a therapist, somebody who can give you a positive action. The other thing that the research says, and this is from the APA Monitor from an article in April 2012, is that exercise can help to release some of the sore feelings that come with rejection. And of course, we talked about exercise before in other programs that I've run. Exercise is a really good approach to reducing stress chemicals and increasing endorphins and positive chemicals in the system. Problem with it is you have to do it, and you have to do enough of it for it to really have an effect. How are we going to treat this, and how we're going to treat this fear? We're going to use tapping, and we're going to use my new intention-based energy process. Wow, I'm sorry, Kerry, if you've lost the vision. I'm hoping that most people are still getting this and that it's still coming through. Yeah, I can only apologise for the internet connection that we have here. Unfortunately, in this particular area of Perth, we're not on the NBN yet with the new hype, and generally it works pretty well. Doreen says rejection by a lover can lead to suicide. And this is a massive problem for men and women, but particularly young men who do not do well with rejection by a love partner. And so this is a massive, massive hurt that needs to be treated. Okay, so I'm going to talk today about how we can use tapping and my new IEP, or what they were saying in Europe, they call it YEP, to release emotional attachments and restore your energy flow from disturbances which are caused by these three things. Now, this is really, it's worth kind of considering these a little bit in detail. One is past rejections, humiliations, and hurts. It can be helpful for you to go back and find all of the past rejections, humiliations, and hurts that you had, and get a list of them and start tapping through them. And then also the rejection messages and the BS, which is the belief systems that have become implanted in you over your lifetime, or the BS that you created at the time that you were rejected in the past, whether it be early childhood, during your teenage years, or in adulthood. And then there's also the future fantasies and projections, where we project rejection into the future. And this is key. This is one of the biggest things that's stopping you. The root of this is certainly your rejections in the past and the pain messages from the past. And then we project them into the future, and that stops us from being able to move forward. It stops us from being able to build our business. It stops us from being able to put our books out there, which it certainly did me for many years. And I finally got over that and got my new book out there, which for now I might as well take the opportunity, if the slide will load, to refer to my new book, 100% Yes, The Energy of Success. And if you don't have your copy, it's on Amazon. You can get a hard copy of it from us. Actually, I had to overcome a whole bunch of my own rejection fears out there. And even at the end, after I finished the manuscript, I made contact with a writing coach. And one, I wanted her to have a look at it and say, okay, what do you think? Is it good enough? And the other thing is that she, we were having a conversation about the book, and I was talking about publishing it. And I made the statement to her. I said something about it having to be worthy. And she turned my own techniques back on me, and she said, Steve, how committed are you to this book having to be worthy? And suddenly I realized that I needed to use my own techniques on myself again. I'd got myself over all the barriers to being able to write this book. But now, in order to get it to publication, I had to again work on another level of fear of rejection from this book not measuring up, not being worthwhile, not being worthy. And when I was able to release that, actually started in the moment that she helped me to see, hey, I'm how worthy it should be, as opposed to what it's really here for, which is to help people. And that's the great thing when you release these attachments, you can go back to what are your core so you can go back to what are your core values and what's really important to you and what's the purpose of this thing out there in this. I'm hoping you'll consider a replay in its entirety. Yes, certainly, Michelle, that will be the case. The good news is, hopefully, we have another webinar this afternoon, which you can watch if you can reach that time zone. And the other thing is that, hopefully the recording of that will be clear, and I will send out the recording as well. So it seems that some of you are getting this and some of you aren't. So again, I'm just going to soldier on with this. This is what happens with these kind of things. You know, sometimes there's no guarantees necessarily that the internet will always do what it's meant to do and the computers will work and all that kind of stuff. Sure, hey, well, let's do whatever works. In fact, anyone who knows tapping, you should be already tapping. Okay, so let's come back to, you know, how we're treating rejection fear. I mentioned before that, you know, we want to treat our past rejections, we want to treat the messages of rejection that we had as we were growing up, and we also want to treat our and projections. And the reason why we want to do that is because your nervous system can't tell the difference between something that you vividly imagine and something that you actually experience. So, you know, I remember years ago watching, you know, they were interviewing some people and the cyclone was going to come through their area, and or potentially. And this lady was just really distraught, and she was just looking over in the distance and just really upset. And she was like, and then she spoke and she said, I can just see everything I own being blown away. And I turned to my wife and I said, gee, she's having the cyclone a day early. It hasn't happened yet. And it never happened. The cyclone turned around the other way, which is what they often do, and went somewhere else. Now, the reason why your brain is capable of thinking of death and destruction, which it does a lot, is presumably, again, this is evolutionarily, so that you can work out a way to deal with it. The challenge is if you live there as if it's happening, you get to experience it as if it's real, and it isn't real. It isn't really happening. So we want to work on that. One with tapping and two with mind intention-based energy process. So let's quickly review tapping for those of you who are new to tapping. These are the tapping points. So everybody who knows tapping, you can be tapping along. Anybody who's new to this, basically start tapping on the point on the top of the head, start of the eyebrow, side of the eye, under the nose, under the lip, under the collarbone. Rachel says, I can relate to having a cyclone a day early. The challenge is, you know, you're preparing for something, presumably, and if we thought of it from the position of not being sucked into it, we could look at it and work out, okay, here's what I can do to prepare, and this is how I can deal with it. And that's a really good thing. You shouldn't stop your brain from doing that. It's when you fuse with it, when you connect with it as if it's really happening, that's when you have the problems. And the tapping is one technique to be able to deal with this. So for anyone who's new, you're just basically tapping along on these points, and also on the finger points on the hand, on the side of the thumb, side of the index finger, side of the middle finger, side of the ring finger, which they don't use in EFT, but we do in SET, side of the little finger, and on the bottom of the hand, and also on the wrist, just like this. And for anyone who's also new to our approach, we also do tapping. Let's see if I can get this. Using the thumb of the same hand, tap on the side of each finger. Just let the thumb be the tapper that taps down on the side of these fingers. And this is really great for taking with you out into a situation where you might get rejected, or when you are anywhere in public, because you can do this very discreetly. You know, I'm holding my hand up doing it now, but I could be doing it like I am right now down here, and you can't see. As far as, you know, anyone would know, I'm just sitting here looking at the camera and talking away. Now, apart from tapping, we also want to use what I'm calling intention-based energy process, or YEP, as they like to say in Europe. And this is a process which uses specific intentions or commands to the subconscious mind to release your emotional attachments to negative beliefs, past hurts, unhealthy behavior patterns, people, things, situations, events, etc., and restore your energy back to flow. And that puts you in a position of balance and clarity. Also allows you to reconnect with your inner resources. And this is a really, really powerful thing. And it's such a simple process, and I combine it with tapping. So that's what we're going to do in a minute. And hopefully, we're going to, hopefully we're not going to upset the internet gods. We try and bring some people online for some question and answer, and also for some came about because I was reading Byron Katie's book, Loving Yes, and this statement of hers jumped out at me. A thought is harmless unless we believe it. It's not our thoughts, but the attachment to our thoughts that causes suffering. And what occurred to me was, it's the emotional attachments. And then what came next was, well, what if we could use, that's what tapping does, is it releases the emotional attachments, but what if we could use intention? What if we could use our pure intention to release that emotional attachment? And I applied that to a problem that I had, and I just simply formed the intention to my subconscious mind. I release my emotional attachments to X and release. Rachel, am I back? As far as I can see, I came back straight away, so that's why I just kept on talking, but I'm hoping that you'll say, yeah, okay. I know there's still a bunch of you online here, assuming that I'm coming through in those other places. So there's quite a few that have stayed with me. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I hope things are clearing up. Really a little bit annoyed about the coming and going kind of thing, but what can we do? We certainly can tap to release how that feels, and we can go forward and do what we can with what we've got. So with this process, there are two main intention statements. And it's just like tapping when you first learn it. You can be surprised that something so simple can be so profound in terms of its effects. And here are the two basic core intention statements of YEP. The first one is about releasing your emotional attachments to whatever it is that you're upset about. The problem, the event, the image, the belief, the thought, the memory, the person, the situation, whatever it is, and you simply make that the target and say, I release all my emotional attachments to X, whatever that is. And the second statement is about restoring the energy flow to the area of the body that's disturbed. So when you're upset, when you are hearing something, then you'll have a body reaction. Might be in the throat, might be in the mouth, might be in the chest, might be in the diaphragm, might be in the stomach, might be further down, might be in your arms and legs, who knows? Might be in the back of your head. And you say, I restore the right energy flow to whatever that body area is where the disturbance is occurring. And this is a remarkable process, which, eventually I'm going to put a program together to train people how to use this. I'm still learning it after about 18 months, well, actually it's more than 18 months I've been using it now. It's time for me to actually gather together all the information I've learned about this. But even just from the simple basics I'm giving you here, you have to apply this to some of your emotional attachments and to some of your energy flow disturbances. Combine it with tapping, you're going to be really, really surprised what that can do. And I'd like to really demonstrate that. So let's see if we can get a volunteer. Actually, let's do this first. Let me give you when I sent out to you, I asked, what's the biggest problem the fear of rejection causes you? So what I'm going to do is change this to Q&A mode. That means that you can ask me a question, and you can come online if you want to. So here's how you ask a question. One is that you can type something in the chat box in the left-hand corner, as people have been doing, or if you want to talk with me live, you can click to raise your hand, and then I will give voice to you, and then you have to make, say on your computer that that's okay, and then we can join computers. So this is down the bottom corner of the attendees list, or even though there isn't a list of attendees that you can see, on the bottom left-hand corner down here, and this is on the left-hand side in most computers. If you click on that little smiley face, then you will get this message drop down, and then you want to click on raise hand, okay? And then you can raise your hand and you can come through and speak with me, and it will let me know people are doing that. Meantime, let's have a look at that question. What is the biggest problem that fear of rejection causes you? And I had a bunch of people that wrote to me. So while I'm waiting for some people to just let me know what's causing you, here's what other people wrote. Here's what Karen said. The biggest problem fear of rejection causes me is the anxiety that being in a group of people generates for me. I love one-to-one, but more than one person, I feel anxiety. So anxiety in groups, basically. And this is very, very common. This is why we run, Overcome Fear of Public Speaking and Presentation programs. This has held a lot of people back in their careers. Very, very common. In fact, Megan, who's typing now, was in that program, and she's online presenting at one of my workshops after going through that course. So I don't know if you want to chime in here, Megan. Kerry says, on a personal level, not being prepared to ask for what I want in terms of holidays, where we live, feeling I need to sacrifice my needs for my husband because he works and brings in the money to support us. And then also in terms of business income generation, not putting myself out there to promote these great health products health-giving products that I've been using for decades because of fear of rejection. Very, very common not moving forward because of that fear of rejection in business. So Megan says, not moving forward holds me back from doing what I would like and try to be someone else rather than try to be someone. Yeah, we grow up learning you have to be this kind of person, and so yeah, it's very, very common for us to hold back. And I see that you've actually put your hand up, Megan. So I'll bring you on just a second. I just want to read a couple of others for people. Kelly says the biggest problem fear of rejection causes me is procrastination. My fear leads me to procrastinate taking action to create the life I envision and desire. Claudine says, my fear of rejection stops me knocking on companies' door or administration's doors to sell myself and what I have to offer. Stops her from progressing job-wise. Evelyn says I withdraw from people. Yeah, thanks, Evelyn. Doing conferences and seminars, it stops Claudine from doing. And Napoli wrote, rejection is to be like at a pastime, put into the marketplace in the town centre, be considered a witch, and all the people shout at me, accuse me of making wild healing. This is actually, she's translating from French to English, and throwing on me old tomatoes, eggs, stones, and at the end put me into a dark, cold jail and kill me in a very sudden. This is a really rich metaphor. And by the way, you should apply the tapping to that. You can apply the tapping to whatever's blocking you. And so if you have the metaphor of being in the marketplace with people throwing rotten vegetables and things at you, do some tapping on that. I don't care whether it is or is not a past life actual experience. Within that metaphor, represented in your psyche, the feelings that would bring up. And so tapping on that can really be a helpful way to go. Yeah, I've had other people write about, holding back. Let me see if I can find it here. One lady actually wrote and said that she hasn't put out some of her artwork for years. I ideally hope that we do that. And so let's look at some ways to do that. First of all, let's do some demo with Megan. And I've just given voice to Megan, and hopefully Megan will be able to come online. You're one of my regular attendees and volunteers in programs, and it's great to see that you're making so much progress, including if I can talk out of school while Megan's receiving a message on her computer and clicking through. I know that you're starting to put yourself out, including advertising in the local paper recently, which is a great, great thing. So that's certainly showing that Megan has been applying the tapping and the YEP process to be able to overcome her fear of rejection enough to start to put herself out there, doing this work, not just the work that she was doing, which was the the safer work that she was doing before tapping and stuff. Still waiting for a response here, Megan, and I noticed Kerry has also put her hand up. Let's see if I can actually do something here. Hopefully this technology is not going to fuck us up here. Megan says, I have the same feeling. I'm sure listening to you will be worthwhile. Well, let's see if we can get Megan through. Just in case that, I know you're generally pretty good on technology, Megan, and you know what to do here. You've been on webinars before. But just for anyone else, I'm just going to put this slide up just to show you what to do. If when I give you voice or when you put your hand up, then you might have this thing which is ask a question on the bottom of your screen. And then also it might take a few seconds for this dialogue to come up where it says you've been chosen to ask a question. You want to ask a question, you say yes, and then you've got to use your camera and microphone. So it looks like you're through, Megan.
Yes, it froze for quite a while there. I couldn't click.
Hello.
Have you got me?
It says to me that you're here, Megan, but I can't actually hear you. I do. Hello.
Hello. It sounds
all
like
right.
there's quite a delay.
I can hear you just. Kerry says I can hear Megan. That's good. Yeah, I think it feels a little bit like, you know, when Skype first goes long delays. This has to be because of the storm and what it did for our internet. So, but Nell says she can hear you. So let's see what happens.
Okay, no worries.
So, what do you want to focus on today?
So yeah, fear of rejection is coming up quite a lot at the moment because, as you said, I'm putting an ad in the paper to put myself out there for tapping more in my local community. And it's just so much fear coming up about talking to people, and even now talking to you, and I've done it several times. I don't know that the right words are going to come out of my mouth. I feel like I need to prepare and have it all right in my head before I can say anything. I'm not very good at off-the-cuff speaking.
Okay, so you've just given us a couple of different things that we can target on. You are tapping, right?
I am.
Okay, so Jean says it's hard to hear you. I'm finding it a little bit that too, so I don't know if you can get closer to the microphone. Doreen says the same thing, so can you find a way to amplify your... Kerry says I can hear clearly.
Yes, I'm trying to...
so are you there?
Yep.
Okay. So one thing you said was, first of all, you're tapping, okay? And so whatever it is that comes up, as you already know, but for those who are new to this, you can apply the tapping to the thought, and you can also apply the tapping to the feeling that that causes. And you can also apply the intention process. So just tap and say, I release all my emotional attachments to having the perfect right words.
I release all my emotional attachments to having the perfect right words. No, that doesn't feel like it.
And just while, okay. So again, you start on whatever comes and then you follow whatever comes next. So when you say it doesn't feel like it's it actually maybe there's more of a problem with the feeling in the body rather than the thought.
Yeah, I've got a lot of pressure coming up in my chest. It feels quite intense at the moment, and saying that statement didn't give any relief to that at all.
No, okay. And that can happen because there's a number of targets, or there's a number of triggers, or we need to work in the body. So sometimes you can succeed by working in the mind, sometimes you need to go to the body. So just say, I restore the right energy flow to my chest.
I restore the right energy flow to my chest.
And just while you do that, thanks, Leah. She says, I've been using this lot on pain and grief and feels a lot better. Yeah, it's astounding what this simple process can do. So yeah, let's just let that percolate for a minute and see what happens with that feeling.
It's released a lot of the bigness of it, and now it's sort of just like a little walnut size feeling now.
Okay. So yeah, this is where we use the tapping and we use the two different statements interchangeably. And of course, you're aware that there's a couple of other different things that we can do. So put your attention on that walnut feeling and just tap, and let's just notice what happens, because these feelings are the problem. If those feelings didn't come up, you'd be free to just put your work out there and say things and not say them perfectly, and recover and learn all that kind of stuff. But of course, you've learned that you have to do things right, maybe from school, maybe from parents, maybe from both. Who knows?
The feeling feels bitter. It feels like bitterness.
Okay. So it might sound, just say, I release all my emotional attachments to this bitterness.
I release all my emotional attachments to this bitterness.
And just let it percolate for a minute. Keep tapping and just notice what happens.
It's shifted up to the back of my neck. That bitterness has gone, and now feeling has shifted up to the back of my neck now.
Okay. And just say, I restore the right energy flow to the back of my neck.
I restore the right energy flow to the back of my neck. And now my brain's chiming in and saying, sure, Steve, this is really great that you're releasing this, but how the hell is that going to help me work out how to talk to people?
Of course, because the mind, doesn't know or doesn't believe that things have changed. So when the key is when you have those thoughts, what it brings up. Does it stop you? Does it trigger you? Because those thoughts are going to come up all the time. Now your brain is saying, how's this going to help me learn to talk to people? Does that make sense?
Yeah, now that brings up
fear
in my chest again.
Okay. So just say, I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments
To having to learn to talk to people properly.
to having to learn to talk to people properly. I feel jealous of other people that can do it so easily.
Okay. Yeah. So just say, I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments
To the fantasy.
To the fantasy.
Of doing it perfectly the first time.
Of doing it perfectly the first time. I should be able to write lots of books with all these fantasies, Steve.
Yes, we all have them. But of course, we look at other people who have these things and we don't know the story, we don't know what they've gone through to be able to do that. I'm not saying that some people aren't born with natural ability and talents and that they don't come from the factory with those things. So some people are saying that I've disappeared again. Am I still here for you?
I'm still here.
Can you still hear me, Megan?
Yes.
Okay. I'm curious how this recording is going to turn out. Let's hope that it's actually.
You might have to do it again,
says,
Steve, do another session.
Yeah, well, I might just have to. And actually, if that's the case, then sure, I'm quite willing to do that. But again, we have this afternoon, I'll be running another one of these, and everyone will get the recording. And if that recording works better, all the good. Of course, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that it will work. But meantime, here we are, and we're dealing with your thing of being able to say it perfectly, or thinking that you have to say it perfectly before you can say it, for example?
A lot of it's shifted now. It's relieved quite a lot. There's still a little tiny bit of something that I can feel sort of around my heart, I think.
Okay. Just say I restore the right energy flow to my heart.
I restore the right energy flow to my heart.
And of course, for everyone who's watching, Megan should be still tapping the whole time, applying them different targets that are coming up to do with this rejection fear. So let me just bring it up again, the intention statements, just so you can have them in front of you. If you're new to this and unfamiliar, it's really quite simple. So one is I release all my emotional attachments to whatever it is, and the other one is I restore the right energy flow to whatever it is that's disturbed. I found that you need to do the first one a lot more than the second one. And of course, remember before there were three main targets of these: past hurts, the BS that we learned about rejection, and the fantasies about what might happen in the future that are disturbing us. And that's what we want to apply these to. So we're doing a little bit of that, on some of the BS, which is the fantasies that, that, oh, okay, they can do it. I should be able to just do it perfectly before I go forward. What's happening right now?
It's calmed down a lot now. There's barely anything there. And when I think about actually viewing myself talking to someone in the street, it feels like, what was my issue in the first place? It's just a conversation. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, okay, so we've certainly started to shift something. What we want to do now is put it out there in a whole lot of different ways to see if there's something that might still trigger something that might block you. But of course, as you know, you set your intention. Your intention is, okay, I'm going to go and start talking to people. Which, by the way, you are doing that, are you not?
Yes, I am.
I think I
Getting out there
read,
a bit
because
easier.
for those
Yeah,
who are
getting.
listening, this is part of my, yeah. So I know, because you're writing in a special Facebook group that we have for people doing the coaching program, and you were talking about some people in one of those posts where you have put yourself into people.
I have, and it was easy. It was scary as well. But to have the ad, to have a conversation about it and say, yeah, I can actually help you with that, when they're having a conversation with someone else, and I can see that that's an area that tapping would be good with, was, yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, okay. And how are you feeling about doing some more of
Still scared.
that? Well, yeah, this rejection. So now, by the way, when I was more of that, this is a different aspect. Before, you were imagining approaching a person in the street. Now this is kind of more global. And in EFT land, they don't like going global, but I actually find that sometimes we do need to go more global. Thing is scary of you, isn't it? The thing of
Yeah,
building
it's
a bigger
it's
business, or having more of a network, or doing more of that.
it's just crazy that you think all these things all the time, but the body does what it does, I guess. And it's more about me. Like, we've had several times, it's about me and
Is
what's happening with me, and all my things, rather than what I can give to someone or what benefit it will be to them.
Yeah. Always when we are having anxiety, it's about us, because it causes us to focus internally rather than to focus outside. This is why techniques like mindfulness, taught by my wonderful Rachel Green, who's online with it, hopefully if she can still hear me, these are great techniques to combine with tapping as well. Putting your attention there on the other person, uh, as opposed to internally on yourself, or your own projection about what's going on. All right. Well, thanks very much, Megan.
Thank
Keep
you, Steph.
tapping.
Yeah, I will. Thanks.
see you. Yeah. Okay. So I've had a couple of other people that put their hand up, but I don't necessarily seem to be able to bring them online. So Doreen is one, and Doreen, I think you're going to need to. Okay, I've got to take voice back from Megan. Maybe I need to do that first. Okay. So I have Doreen and Kerry who've put their hand up, and let's see if we can get you to come online. You'll need to click through and say okay. I'll go back to that screen just so you have it in front of you. Meantime, I did notice that Doreen wrote some stuff in the chat a little bit earlier, so I might just come back to that as well and try and answer that question. The question was, what if I feel tired? What would you say? Well, generally the feeling is being triggered by something. I'm not saying there isn't such a thing as legitimate tiredness, by the way. You can have legitimate tiredness, and so therefore, let's just check in and make sure if you're tired, maybe you need to have a rest. But if you're tired because you focus on the problem and you get this overwhelming feeling of tiredness or whatever, then it's like, okay, can you identify a trigger, something that's triggering that tiredness? If not, you can just start tapping. And of course, we're combining these techniques, and sometimes tapping will work on its own, sometimes the intention process will work on its own, and sometimes we're going to use both of them together. So I would first of all start tapping, and then I would put my attention on how do you know you're tired? How do you experience the tiredness? Where are you feeling tired? And you know. It's like we're back. Okay. So where were we? I think maybe the internet is making a little bit of tiredness at the moment. So we could say I release all my emotional attachments to the poor internet connection, and I release all my emotional attachments to the scratchy, intermittent voice, and etc. So yeah, if you can't manage to come through on live in terms of if you don't see this dialogue button that comes up and you don't see this thing to approve your camera and microphone, then just type in the chat and we'll see if we can have a conversation in the chat, because for some reason for Doreen and Kerry that's not come through, even though I see that you've got your hand up there and haven't been to my question and answer. So let's get some stuff happening in chat and see if I can answer a couple of questions about using the technique and how you use it on issues right now for you. So Doreen, what's your response to that tiredness? Of course, in this case, the whole thing about fear of rejection, that can just make you feel tired. And often, I've noticed when using tapping with people, sometimes they're just like, oh, I feel exhausted. That's because they've been holding internally all this pressure to perform and to conform. And so when they go out into public, or when they think about going out into public, they really tighten up and they constrict. And so that constriction can really wear you out. So yeah, let's see if we can get some. Okay. So Robert's saying, you're saying if I take myself video, it might improve. Okay, I'm back with you all. I release emotional attachment to the fantasy that I can't handle rejection. Well, I would actually release attachment to the belief that you can't handle rejection. because that's a belief that's founded in some experiences from the past. So start with tapping on those beliefs that you have, and then look at where you learned that and where you experienced that in the past. So go back to the experiences of where you've had rejection in the past and do some tapping on those experiences, which have given you the belief and the projection that you're going to have in the future. All right, Doreen is through. So I've just clicked to give Doreen voice, so let's hope she can come through. Okay, so I'm just going to turn the video off because people are suggesting that I do that, and it might actually be using too much bandwidth. So let's just change this, and then we'll just stick with voice, and I'll change the layout. No, it looks like we have to stick with this layout. Yeah, okay. But Doreen, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Can
Very
you
good.
hear
All
me?
right, nice to hear you. Yeah.
All right.
Just keep waiting. It'll come through.
I clicked the button. I clicked ask a question, and that's what came through.
All right, excellent. Okay, so what would you like to focus on? Let's see if we can do a little bit of work, yeah?
So fear of rejection makes me afraid to ask good questions because I think I have the fantasy that I might be intrusive.
Okay. All right. So that is the fantasy that you project into the future, but you've learned about being intrusive probably from the past. Would that be right?
Yes. I don't like intrusive people, and I don't want to be rejected by someone who thinks I'm intrusive.
Okay. So let's just start. Are you tapping?
Tapping now.
Okay. So just say, I release all my emotional attachments to intrusiveness.
I release all my emotional attachments to intrusiveness.
And just let that do whatever it does, and just notice what it does. Okay, so I'm hearing a breath there or a sigh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's happening there?
Not sure.
Okay, so just keep tapping and just see what you notice.
Release all emotional attachment to intrusiveness.
You don't generally have to say the statement again. Just let it do what it does and just keep tapping and just notice what's happening. And just notice the next thing that comes up for you. Whether it's a thought, whether it's a feeling, whether it's a memory. Whatever it is.
I'm not really getting anything.
Okay, so think about being, this. You say you have this fear of being intrusive, and you hate intrusive people. We could go either way. We could go to where you learn to hate intrusive people. That would be a good place to go, back into the past and see what happens there. The other thing is we could go to the projection. You stop yourself. How you think about, okay, if I go forward here, they're going to see me as intrusive. Do that.
Right.
Just say I release all my emotional attachments to them seeing me as intrusive.
I release all emotional attachments to them seeing me as intrusive. That's true. That is true. I guess it's fear of being judged by them as well.
Okay. So now just keep tapping and say, I release all my emotional attachments to being judged.
I release all emotional attachments to being judged. That's going to take a lot of tapping.
Okay, so each thing that comes up, just treat that as the next thing to treat, right? So when you have a thought like that, make that the target, okay? So just say, I release all my emotional attachments to that's going to take a lot of tapping.
I release all emotional attachments to that's going to take a lot of tapping.
And just see what, because that thought also is another blocking belief, another entrenched belief, you know, that stops you in your tracks and goes, oh, okay, you know, this is going to be too big, too hard, or whatever. So each thing that comes up, we just set the target and we apply this. Yes.
They need to be perfect as well.
So just say, I release all. Okay, I release all my emotional attachments to being perfect.
I release all my emotional attachments to the need to be perfect. I like this. This is good. It's exactly what I need. It's exactly what I need to stop needing all this perfection, and that's what I need to remember. I need to remember it.
Okay, so just say, I release all my emotional attachments. Yes, you do.
Can I
release all my emotional attachments to having to remember it.
Thank you. I release all my emotional attachments to the need to remember it. To remember. To not use tapping on my needs.
Because you can apply your own perfectionism to tapping then you can get upset at yourself about not tapping correctly and all that kind of stuff. And it's just the same problem playing out in a different arena.
It is definitely about how I can help people to the best of my ability.
Yeah. Okay.
And I guess I feel this. I do feel the need to be perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what I'm sensing is part of the underlying positive intention is coming through, but as it starts to come through, it gets stopped again by the perfectionism belief or the judging belief or the one that says, you know, if you're going to help people, you've got to do it absolutely, exactly, precisionally perfect or whatever. So just say, I release all my emotional attachments to being the perfect helper.
I release all my emotional attachments to being the perfect helper.
And what's that doing?
Again, I feel this need to tap, that I'm going to need to tap on this a lot more.
Oh yeah, and that may be true. That may be true, but I'm curious. Just scan through your body and notice what's happening in your body at the moment.
I do feel more relaxed than when I first got online. I think I was a bit anxious about that as well.
Yeah. Is there any area where it's a little bit? Yeah. Is there any area that's a little bit disturbed, tense, a little bit constricted?
Well, I'm feeling better already, but I was feeling it in my jaw and my eyes.
Okay. Well, let's
At
just
the
try this to see
beginning,
what happens. Just say I restore the right energy flow to my jaw.
I restore the right energy flow to my jaw.
Is that sigh again?
Yeah, definitely feeling relaxed. More relaxed now.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, let's just pause here. Now, I have a little bit of a problem because I cannot get my computer to return back to the previous screen where everybody is. So I'm going to try and rejoin the meeting. And so thank you very much, Doreen. Just keep tapping. I'm sure there will be more work to do and more aspects to do with this. But you can just try using this simple process and add that to your tapping. And every time you have another blocking thought, like, this is going to take more time or whatever, then apply it to that and just notice where it goes next. And then come back to your intention, whichever way that you want to put yourself out there in public or in relationships or business and work and whatever it is, and just notice what happens when you think about doing that. And of course, don't wait until you have the fear completely fixed before you move. I say feel the fear, tap and do it anyway, rather than just feel the fear and do it anyway. But now I also say feel the fear, tap, and yep, and do it anyway. And take the yep process with you as you take those steps forward. Okay,
I love it.
All right, let me
Thank
just
you.
leave this room and get back where everybody is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I back? Can everybody hear me again? Please tell me that you can. Thank you so much, all of you, for persisting through all of these technical challenges that we have had. Oh my goodness! Actually, this is the most technical challenges I have had so far in a webinar. So I really appreciate your sticking with this. So some say no. Elise says it came an hour late. Will there be a video? Yes, there will, Elise. Okay, so Pam and Katie, you're saying no. I'm not sure what you're saying no to. Maybe some can hear me and some can't. Okay, so let's continue on. All right, now going back to this particular slide here. Okay. So how we treat rejection. And just want to give you some tips to take away and some things to do to apply this. First of all, take away, if this is the first time you've seen the YEP process, just take it away and try it on everything, just like you do with tapping. And yes, I have turned the video off because hopefully that will mean that I will maintain a connection because the video uses a lot more bandwidth. So that's why it's sound only, I'm afraid, right now. Okay, so we want to use the tapping and the YEP process on the past rejections, the rejection messages and the BS that we were given. Here's a few areas to apply it to, okay? Number one, school experiences and experiences with teachers. So what could be really helpful is just go back and make a rejection list of social rejection or social pain experiences And for a lot of us, they're at school where we had experiences, you know, being yelled at by the teacher, being told off. I can remember reading in front of the class and making an error and having the whole class laugh at me. No doubt you've had those kind of experiences as well. And, you know, I had a certain teacher who used to come and yell very loud, and also would tip over your desk if he got very upset at you and throw things at you. And you know, he would if I got something wrong, he would, you know, he did this to everybody. It wasn't just me. He would say, "You're an idiot, Wells. What are you?" And you'd have to repeat the words, "I'm an idiot, sir." He was half joking, but it's still a negative experience because you are the butt of a joke and you're being humiliated in front of the group. So make a list of these experiences and go back on those experiences. Past public performances. And again, a lot of those are when we were in childhood, we learn, you know, we get up to make a public performance. It's the first time we've done it, so we're not perfect at it. And of course, you know, we judge ourselves harshly, and potentially other people judge us harshly as well. I remember when I was a kid and I was in the church and I had to do a solo, so I got up and sung. I sat down next to my friend and he said, "Thank God that's over." And he didn't mean, "Thank God that's over, you know, you must be very relieved." He meant, "Thank God that's over, it was terrible." And so it was a really hurtful experience for me. And I've had to do some tapping on that experience. And that's really helped me now to be able to get up in public and to make a fool of myself. But I wouldn't be able to do quite the same if I hadn't released some of that pain of that experience. Then there's the experiences that we have in our early friendships, where, you know, acceptance and rejection is part of what we learn. You know, Muhammad Ali says, when you go to school, you learn friendship, and if you haven't learned that, you haven't learned anything at all. Well, some of us, you know, learned that the people that we thought were our friends can really hurt us, abuse us, let us down, betray us, and all of those kind of things. And if you've had those experiences, then take the tapping and the YET process and apply that to some of those experiences. Establishing who we're going to be and what we're going to be in society, and the particular intense feelings of that time, and excruciating feelings, you know, of rejection in relationships. You know, I was in musing on this, thinking before this webinar on some of my early experiences of asking girls to go out with me and the rejection that I had in those experiences. And I actually did a bit of tapping and a bit of releasing. It was really, really helpful. Not that I need to worry about that, because I'm now very happily married for just a wife for words. But those experiences can also be still stopping you from putting yourself out there publicly in all kinds of other ways. And of course, there's the relationship experiences that we have with the people that are closest to us, and that rejection. One of the biggest rejection of all is the maternal or paternal rejection. And I know that there's a lot of people here who've had that kind of rejection. This is really strong rejection experiences. And I highly recommend working with practitioners and therapists to work through that kind of rejection. If you have had rejection from a parent, you know, from a very young age, or even as a young child, that's a very, very strong, hurtful, multi-layered, complex thing. Not saying it can't be relieved, it certainly can, and people do get over this stuff, but it's something that I would highly recommend working with someone else on. All right, well, our time is going to be up, and I really appreciate those of you. A lot of you have stayed with me. I find that incredible, given the quality of the connection that we had with the internet, some of the time in this. Obviously, enough of it has come through to keep a bunch of online. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to, hopefully this afternoon, that will be perfect, and we'll be able to send you the replay of that. I also want to give you a couple of things to follow on with and to do with this. Where do you go from here? You know, one of the big issues of this, what's the opposite of rejection? It's acceptance. And acceptance starts with self-acceptance. And so I want to make an offer to you for a program that I have based on self-acceptance. I know that some of you online that I see here have done that program, and it's one of the programs which has been a perennial program for me, and this stuff adds a new dimension to it. Carl Jung says the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, and he also says condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. And one of the things about what we learn about acceptance and rejection is we learn to internalize the rejection, and then we are rejecting ourselves. And if you're going to put yourself out there, my mentor Alan Weiss says the first sale is always to yourself. Acceptance starts with you, and it starts with self-acceptance. And the great thing about self-acceptance is that when you work on your own lack of self-acceptance, which has often been internalized because of your early rejection experiences, then you're able to move forward. When you continue to beat yourself up as a way of trying to get yourself moving, and you continue to reject yourself as a way of trying to get yourself accepted, it's a zero-sum game. And ultimately, the paradox is that when you accept yourself, you can change. It's a strange, strange world. Carl Rogers says it really clearly. He says, what I am is good enough if I would only be it openly. Oh my gosh, how we fear being openly who we really are. And so my self-acceptance program is designed to help you with that. I'm going to make a special offer for you, particularly for putting up with the challenges that we had with technology here. I have a 30-day days of self-acceptance support messages, inspiration, strategies, and techniques. I've had a lot of really good feedback from people who've been through that program. It's a great program. There's a 4-part audio series I did with Jessica Ortner included in that, Find Shadow. And there's also the recordings of a 4-part teleclass series that I ran. All of that, which normally sell for $235, sells for $99. And I'm letting you have it for the next few days. If you get in now, our operators are standing by for $49.50, which is half price. And the way to get that, after the webinar, go to our training page on EFTdownunder.com. You'll be taken there straight after the webinar, or if you're watching it on the replay here. You go to the training page. Then when you click through and you get to checkout, make sure you put in the coupon code Accept Me Now. Put that coupon code in, make sure that it's applied, and then you'll get 50% off. That offer is going to apply for the next 7 days. The other thing is, some of you know I have a Go For It program based on 100% Yes. I'm really proud of this program. It's a video-based program to help you align your vision, values, beliefs, goals, and actions, so you can go for it 100% without being held back, and basically get all of your parts working in harmony together. That program is an online program of 26 videos in 8 modules, and it works you through applying the tapping and the intention-based energy process to releasing your emotional attachments to BS and beliefs that are in your way, helps you to work on your values, beliefs, and get you aligned so that you can take action towards your goals. There's also recordings of 5 90-minute coaching calls, and there's a total of 31 videos in that program. And also that offer, I was going to make one offer. I said to Louise, what shall I do? She said, I'll give them both. And so I'm actually making an offer for this program as well. The normal rate for those videos is $197. Generally, for people who purchase my book, it really works if you have the book, because the book is based on the same process. Please go buy the book and then come and insert that code when you go through to checkout. Make sure you click apply to apply the coupon code, and then you get that program for $97 instead of $197. Again, you can access the links for that on the training page on EFTdownunder.com. You'll click through, you'll be taken to the right web page. And there's a coaching option, which I will be commencing early in 2017. Megan is actually part of that program, so we're making really great progress. I see a couple of other people from that program are here, and it's really wonderful to be able to work through with people. And if I get the chance to do that with you, I hope that we can all help each other. That's what the group does, by the way. When you have enough working together, everybody supports each other to succeed. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. All right, so here we are at the end of our webinar. Thank you so much for sharing this on with me. I really appreciate you doing that. As I said, particularly given the challenge that we had with the technology. If you want to take advantage of those extra programs, I'd love to help you access them and support you to achieve your goals and get over as much of this the false rejection fears. Certainly, you want to be accepted, you know, in a positive way, but having to and holding yourself back out of fear of rejection doesn't help any of us. We need you to put your art out there. We need you to get your songs out there. We need you to poetry out there. In fact, can I just, before we finish, I need to find this because I had it right in front of me and I printed it out, and now it's not here. But Sue, who's in one of my groups, actually wrote a beautiful poem because she's been applying tapping to her own fear of rejection. She was really astounded to discover, you know, just how much rejection was an issue for her. And so she's been tapping on where she learned that. And she sent me this beautiful poem. So I'm going to finish with it. It's called Love. Rejection cuts right to the quick of things, piercing with arrows attached to burning cords of suffering, ensnaring and conditioning one with a pseudo-caring. Rejection blinds, deafens, and suffocates. It becomes a familiar pain. Who might I be without it? Then, quietly and understated in its pure beauty and innocence, love slips in underneath the radar, imperceptibly melting away rejection's resistance. Love makes all things possible again. Hope returns. Bitterness melts. Wounds are healed. Heart and mind expand, cherishing the tiny things put in my path this day. Black clouds may gather again one day, but today, love lies nestled in my heart, warming, nurturing, overflowing into the beautiful mundane. Isn't that beautiful? And I know for Sue, putting that out there is also part of that process. So really appreciate you sending me that, Sue. And she said, I asked for her permission to share that with you, and she said, yes, fine. If you would also say that it's come after a lot of tapping and a lot of releasing using the intention process to overcome those rejection fears. All right, so all that remains is for us to say goodbye, and I'm going to put up the replay and see if it's actually better than it seemed, and hopefully there'll be enough clarity for those of you who want to watch it again, or for those of you who want to go back to it, and also replay of the other programs. Thank you so much for being part of this. I appreciate you joining me, and keep tapping, and bye for now.